On day one, Michael arrived at the first destination, Narrabri, a town surrounded by multiple national parks and habitats, and of course he got some herping done. The first find was this eastern dotella, a very common species of gecko, usually found hunting insects in and around buildings of a night, although this guy was found on the road. A sad reality of road cruising means you find a lot of dead animals, including this freshly hit eastern brown snake. Another very common species of gecko found in the area. This guy's an eastern spiny-tailed gecko. These guys have rows of spines that run down the length of their tail and very beautiful red eyes. These green tree frogs were found absolutely everywhere, even found perched on our spags of a night. They must have been taking advantage of the rains that the area has been receiving. The next day, I left my home to meet Michael out at Narrabri. On the way there, we found a couple eastern long-necked turtles crossing the road. These guys usually get squashed by cars, so I was glad that I could come along to get them off. They usually move from water source to water source or find a suitable place to lay their eggs if gravid. Here I am arriving in Narrabri. Just before this, I managed to miss a large eastern brown snake who got off the road pretty quick. Once it got dark, we decided to go road cruising to see what we can find. The first find of the night was an eastern spiny-tailed gecko. You really can't go a night without seeing one. Another very common lizard. These guys are common throughout Australia. This is a Burton's legless lizard. These guys can be easily mistaken as a snake, but they are actually in fact more closely related to geckos. It was really cool to see this guy out west. I'm so used to seeing them at home. This is a bandy. They spend their life underground and they usually feed on blind snakes. Grey snakes are an endangered species of elapid, found only in the central west New South Wales into the Brigalow region. These guys are closely related to the marsh snake. This spotted or blue-bellied black snake is a highly venomous species of elapid found in the central west New South Wales and Brigalow region in Queensland. They usually prey upon frogs, lizards, mammals and even other snakes. This young spotted black snake was super healthy. In fact, all the snakes we found were really healthy. It is so good to see him doing well after the years of drought. These banded snakes emerge after heavy rain out of their black soil cracks to forage on frogs, usually found around standing bodies of water, including puddles. Finding this pale head was an awesome way to finish off the night. We were planning to target this species in Queensland, and to get it in New South Wales was just awesome. These guys are one of 3 species in their family, including Stevens banded and broad-headed snakes. The next day we decided to go to Mount Kapitar National Park. This national park is home to a few skink species that we wanted to photograph, including one endemic one found nowhere else on the planet. At the first stop, we found heaps of these guys. These are Cunningham skinks. Although this population is very isolated, it seriously wouldn't surprise me if they become their own species one day, or at least subspecies. After the Cunningham skinks, we drove higher in elevation to try to find our next skink on our list. And here it is, the Kapitar rock skink. This species is found nowhere else in Australia, and this guy was basking at an altitude of 1500 metres. Pretty crazy. Like other Rigonia, they usually live in family groups. After Mount Kapitar, we decided to drive some dirt roads in hopes of finding some monitors. We did manage to find this young sand monitor basking in the late afternoon sun on the side of the road. Also making the most of the late afternoon sun was this gravid knobby dragon. Although very common in backyards, it is always awesome to see a large blue tongue out in the bush. That night we went road cruising again to try to locate some nocturnal critters. The best find that night was this beautiful Murray-Darling carpet python. The next day, before we left for our next destination, we managed to find this beautiful young sand monitor. After photographing the sandy, we headed off to Lightning Ridge, a small country town well known for their black opals. After getting settled in Lightning Ridge, we went looking for animals again. The first find for the night was this beautiful inland marbled velvet gecko. The next find for the night was this broad-banded sand swimmer. Geez, these guys can run quick. These guys usually live their lives underneath the sand, but obviously this guy was taking advantage of the warm road. The next reptile to cross our path was this beautiful Australian coral snake. These guys are easily one of the prettiest snakes in Australia and are another burrowing species of reptile found in arid parts of the country. The last find for the night was this box pattern gecko, named due to the markings on their back. They are a very cute, small species of gecko. That's the end of part 1. Please make sure you subscribe so you can see part 2 where we head into the Brigalow.